Shalom, Lakem, Kal Yeshara'al, Outer Peace Israel. Welcome back to another video. And we're gonna be looking at chapter. We're in Debarim, Hasafar, the book. We're looking at chapter 33. Okay, and it reads on this wise. The context is Moses' final blessing on Israel, and it reads, "This is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the people of Israel before his death. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and dawned from Seir upon us. He shone forth from Mount Paran. He came from the 10,000s of holy ones with flaming fire at his right hand. Yes, he loved his people, but all his holy ones were in his hand. So they followed in your steps, receiving direction from you. When Moses commanded us a law as a possession for the assembly of Jacob, thus the Lord became king in Yasharon, when the heads of the people were gathered, all the tribes of Israel together. Let Reuben live and not die, but let his men be few. And this he said of Judah, Hear, O Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him into his people with your hands. Contend for him and be a help against his adversaries. And Levi, he said, Give Levi your Thummim and your Urim to your godly one, whom you tested at Massah, with whom you quarreled at the waters of Meribah, who said of his father and mother, I regard them not. He disowned his brothers and ignored his children, for they observe your word and keep your covenant. Verse 10 says, Then they shall teach Jacob your rules, and Israel your law, and they shall put incense before you and hold burnt offerings on your altar. Bless, O Lord, his substance, and accept the work of his hands. Crush the loins of his adversaries, of those who hate him, that they rise not again. O Benjamin, he said, the beloved of the Lord dwells in safely. The high God surrounds him all day long and dwells between his shoulders. This is the security of the Jamaicans that they had. You see, you find that with the Jamaicans, that's where the majority of Benjamin are. You find that they've got they've typically had some form of culture, and they've typically been left alone. Like, they haven't really had issues with. They only were brought to the UK for the Windrush generation, but apart from that, they didn't really get much. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I just feel that the father looked after them. They've always retained themselves in regards to, like, they still had remnants of the father's name, like in Rastafari and like Jah and all the other places. You find that we went totally off. You see what I'm saying? So Benjamin definitely has been looked after. I definitely would say that, even in this day and age, when you see them around, they're like the ones amongst the community where they they stand firm. They've got cultural foundation. You see, they've got their way of speaking. That they've got their they're this. What I'm trying to say is that you'll find that different tribes of Israel, when they're in captivity, they're very much, they're like their oppressor. But the Jamaicans, they're different. They typically they are like themselves wherever they go, which is good. It's like they don't lose where they come from, which is important, because that's your culture, that's your identity, right? And it says, and Joseph, he said, blessed by the Lord by his land, with the choicest gifts of heaven above. This is similar to Genesis 49. It says, and of the depth that crouches beneath, with the choicest fruits of the sun, and the rich yield of the months, with the finest produce of the ancient mountains and the abundance of the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwells in the bush. May these rest on the head of Joseph, right? On the pate of him who is prince among his brothers. A first bull, he has majesty, and his horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he shall gore the peoples, all of them to the ends of the earth. That are the tens. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Okay, that's a. You see how much we get, Joseph. We were giving from verse 13 all the way down to verse 17. We got a real big blessing from Moses. And then you see Judah. Judah's got we got one verse. I'm just listen. I'm not trying to split hairs, but I'm just trying to show you something that Joseph's position in in the nation of Israel is very important. The kingship is important in the sense that the Mashiach was going to come out of that, but in an idea of like being the operator amongst his brethren, Joseph is supposed to be the one that, i.e., Ephraim, the tribe that I come from, we are the ones that are supposed to keep order because we have the biggest blessing. Look at it. You know, it says, and Zebulun, he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out, and Issachar in your tents. They shall call peoples to their mountain. There they offer right sacrifices, for they draw the abundance of the seas and hidden treasures of the sand. And of Gad he said, blessed be he who enlarges Gad. Gad crouches like a lion, like a lion. He tears off arm, and scalp. He chose the best of the land for himself, for their commander's portion was reserved. And he came with the heads of the people. With Israel he executed the justice of the Lord and his judgments for Israel. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's cub that leaps from Bashan. And Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, sated with favor and full of blessings of the Lord, possess the lake and the south. Okay, which is quite true. In America, that's where he's dwelling, South America. It's like Chile and Argentina. It says, and Asher, he said, most blessed of sons be Asher, let him be the favor of his brothers, and let him dip his foot in oil. Your bars shall be iron and bronze, as your days, so shall your strength be. And Asher is typically one of the big guys out of the tribe. You find a lot of the tribe of Asher, they're very big. Similar, maybe not as tall as Benjamin, but they're usually big. They love they love getting into like martial arts and things like this. Okay, so Asher got a nice blessing. It says he'd be the favorite amongst his brethren, and it's true because Asher is supposed to be happy. It talks about that's what Asher is called. He's typically that's what you find that the tribe of Asher, they always tend to want to be, they want to be the favorite. You find this is true, and I've got brothers that are from Asher, and whenever they were amongst us, they always try to be the one that's the the one that's most affiliated with everyone that's present. They will try their best to ensure that that they are the center of attention, sort of thing. It's very, very prevalent. Anyway, it says there's none like God, O Yasharon, who rides through the heavens to your help, to the skies in his majesty. The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he thrust out the enemy before you and said, destroy. So Israel lived in safely. Jacob lived alone in a land of grain and wine, whose heavens dropped down dew. Oh, we're finishing up the chapter. It says, happy are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by the Lord, the shield of your help, a sword of your triumph. Your enemies shall come fawning to you, and you shall tread upon your backs. Okay, last chapter, chapter 34. Concept here's the death of Moses. And it reads, it says, then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho. Excuse me. And the Lord showed him all the land, Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, the land of Ephraim, Manasseh, all the land of Judah, as far as the western sea, the Negeb and the plain that is the valley of Jericho, the city of the palm trees as far as Zoar. And the Lord said to him, this is the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to your offspring, and I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows the place of his burial to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was undimmed and his figure unabated. And the people of Israel wept for Moses uh, in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the people of Israel obeyed him, and did as the Lord commanded Moses. And there has not risen a prophet since in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, not like him for all the signs and the wonders that the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land, and for all the mighty power and all the great deeds of terror that Moses did in the sight of all of Israel. So we have now entered the mighty book of the Barim, Hasafar, the book of Deuteronomy. Again, I've been just reading it like a storybook. I haven't really gone into the things in much detail, but I'm just encouraging the listener and the reader to this word that we all start partaking in this. Yeah, record yourself while you're doing your reading. It's something about recording yourself that has a way of invoking the spirit, in your struggle when you're coming to reading these scriptures. We've got quite a bit to read. We're now going to be at the book of Joshua, and through this we're gonna segue through this whole thing, and at some stage we'll restart. We'll go back. It's still a lot for us to read. These books there's so much to get understanding in. And through the Spirit, if the Father gets me to, do something slightly different, we'll praise this. Until then, let's keep breaking some spiritual bread, because it's a very simple thing to just read the scriptures. People fight. They like to talk a good game and act like they know something by just they've read a few things and they have some understanding. But if you're not regularly reading this thing every day, there's so many things in here that you're not going to fully be able to understand, only because you don't give enough time for yourself to actually read. And it's through this reading which builds your faith, because you gather better understanding. You start receiving more revelations and things like this. So it should be a continual thing. You should be reading your Bible every day, and even other extra biblical texts that provides better understanding. Okay, because through that, the Spirit of the Father is going to tie the dots with things like the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Yasha. These are all books that are, there's individuals in here that refer to these books, especially the Book of Yasha. It talks about that in the Book of Kings, or I think it's the Book of Samuel, the Book of Jubilees. Well, it talks about that there is a Jubilee. A Jubilee is 50 years, you see. So without you, reading inside these scriptures here, where else would you see such a terminology, you see? So that's where you go and look for your second witness. You see that the book of if you look at the book of the Ethiopian Bible, sorry, you'll find that the books that I've mentioned, they're all in there, except for I think the book of Yasha wasn't. But how we get a better understanding of the scriptures is that we read the Bible, but we look at other accounts that complement, because people these days have been bashing their heads against the wall about trivial things, about whether the Messiah exists, or he is who he says he is, or is he the Son of God? But when you go and read all the other prophetic books that connect with it, it's a no-brainer. It's I'm not saying, me personally, I can read this, and I can bring you a good enough understanding that that kind of stumps all those trivial questions. But yeah, just a little encouragement that we need to keep reading, because these times, you know, if you're not very well versed and it's not part of you, it's going to become difficult in these times to come, because you don't want to always be reading just to figure out things. You want it to really be, you know, ingrained in your subconscious mind, so then you can what, you know, it's just natural to you, right? So may Yahweh bless you, may Yahweh keep you, may Yahweh shine his face upon you, may Yahweh be gracious to you, may Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you, and may Yahweh grant you everlasting peace in Yahshua HaMashiach's name I pray. Selah.